Now it's live.
Tanisha, you want to hide your video? Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the first episode of Unsuited by a collaboration between the Grey Matter and IDEX Legal. We've been pretty aggressive and innovative with our marketing. So I'm sure you know who our very first guest is. He's on your screen right now. We all know the large deals he's done and closed and the clients he's charmed. But let's find out how the sides that we really get to witness. Let's welcome our very first guest, Rajiv Luthra, founding and managing partner, L&L Partners, but not in suits today. Welcome, Rajiv. Welcome, and thank you for being the first guest on Unsuited by the Grey Matter and IDEX Legal. How are you doing?
Good, my friend. Thank you very much. Bakra bana rahe ho, abhi banao. Let's see how it goes.
Well, thank you for being part of the first experiment for us. This is really about getting to know lawyers beyond the corporate veil. So really about, we all know about the work you've done, the career you've had, but we really want to get the community to know other sides of you that they may not know. So, I'm going to start with you back at college, because you've told me some of the interesting stories of when you were at college and your entrepreneurial journey. So let's look at, where did Rajiv Luthra come about when he was college?
So I'll just go a little bit before that to give you a little flavor. My father was in the Air Force, and he got transferred to many different cities, and I studied in many schools. So it did help me many ways in picking up, easier to make friends. It was much easier to deal with different sorts of people from South India to Pune, to Chandigarh, to Kanpur, to Jaipur, Delhi, of course. And so we kept getting transferred and moved around. And then finally, Dad settled down in Delhi. He took premature retirement. And I did my final schooling from the Air Force Central School in Delhi. Finished school, I dare say, not great marks. Nowadays, I wouldn't even get admission in college if I showed my school marks. But went on very quickly to get articled in a chartered accountant's office. That was my father qualified as a chartered accountant before he joined the Air Force. So he set up his CA practice with a friend, and I started doing my articles with him. And at a very young age, at the age of roughly about 16 plus, I'm one of the younger registered chartered accountants in the history of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, I believe. And found the whole process of chartered accountancy, especially audit, and my apologies to all the chartered accountants, complete brain dead activity. I just couldn't handle it. But I did it for about 7-8 years because my father's partnership broke in the middle and I was the eldest son. Though Dad was a lovely human being and he said, son, you do what you want to do. So I did various things as a youngster, tried my hand at many different things, and I was always wanting to do things that I enjoyed doing. For example, I set up, along with 3 other friends from school, an adventure travel company, pure adventure travel, called Ibex Expeditions. And that company we set up, and today I'm happy to tell you that it's in the top 100 adventure travel companies of the world, as per National Geographic. Thereon, I started working with a friend of mine who just returned from Japan, an Indian, who set up the Wimpy hamburger chain in India. He made me the first finance director of that company at the age of 22, I think I was. And we opened this restaurant where, of course, beef was a no-no in India. And I helped them figure out what a veg burger is from Bengali market and Shah Jahan Road, the Aloo Ki Tikki Wala. And we made the first veg burger, so to speak, of the world, and it's been very successful since. And some of you may have tasted it.
Well, on that point, so I'll just cut you up there. So I used to come to India every year to visit my cousins, and we used to go to that Wimpy in Connaught Place, because that was like the only place to go out. And I used to complain, going, why is it only veg? Like in London, we get meat. Why can we only get veg burgers?
No, we got meat. You got meat, but mutton,
but
not beef.
Yeah.
You got mutton, and you
But
got fish, and you got chicken, but there was no beef. Anyway, found auditing very, very boring. Shifted to tax. My elder sister, Rashmi Uday Singh, was in the revenue service and practiced tax. Enjoyed that a lot. It was good fun till about the mid 80s or a little bit later, 85, 86. The tax department started to get a little more corrupt than what I was used to, and it all became a lot about who you know rather than what you know. And also, I had rights of audience only up to the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. I couldn't argue the matter beyond that, but I had no rights of audience in the High Court or Supreme Court. So I decided to do my law. I did my law at the age of 31 and set up my law firm in 1989-90 and started to grow the firm, and then realized that my knowledge of law was almost bereft, because I just mugged up from the books and passed the exam. And I'd never trained, I'd never interned, I'd never worked with a lawyer. So I decided to go to Harvard Law School in summer. I went for 7 summers to Harvard Law School and learned things like project finance, things like M&A, things like negotiation, things like even trial law, etc., more generic stuff relevant to the Indian system. And came back and would teach my guys and slowly built the firm to today where we are. I really started it virtually on a motorcycle and a wish. I had a small office in Ashoka Estate building, 1,500 square feet. We built that today we have roughly, I would say, about 60,000 in the same building, 4 offices, about under 300 lawyers and about 80 partners. And that's where we are.
And was it mainly that thing about you wanted to appear in the court to argue a judgment? Was that the kind of driving force for choosing to get into law? Because you had no mentors and there was no one in the family that was a lawyer. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. I started enjoying the whole concept of being able to contribute, because I found that as an auditor, I was just being, sorry to say it like that, apologies again to my chartered accountant friends. My younger brother is a chartered accountant, runs a CA practice, but apologies to all of them, including my late father. Auditing, I found, was you were only checking what the other person was doing wrong. You weren't adding any value in real terms. If you did 1,000 things right, it didn't matter. You did one thing wrong and there was a hit on the knuckles or more. So in there I found in law, it was like in tax, there was a little bit of creativity. There was a little bit of, you could give solutions, you could build things in. And what I enjoyed about law was that you could come up with solutions, and it was a different issue almost every hour. And luckily, being the head of the firm and the founder, I could choose what I wanted to do. The more mundane and boring stuff I could hand over to my youngsters.
And what was it like? Because you also started at a very exciting time for the Indian economy, like the early 90s, when liberalization was kicking in. Obviously, India had got to a big economic crisis that forced the government to open the market, but then saw this whole wave of liberalization. So what was it like setting up a business, and especially a law firm, during that era?
Firstly, law is not a business, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's a profession. Sorry to correct you, Vikas.
Sorry,
but no. It's become a business now, so what the hell?
Yeah.
So that's what everybody says. But I still believe it's a profession, and integrity and ethics is a very important part of it. So, sorry, your question was, I missed.
It was really about what was it like setting up your own practice during the early 90s when the whole economy had just switched, markets had liberalized, you had all these reforms coming in. So what was it like setting up a firm that time?
I've got many awards, many magazines, various chambers and various others have interviewed me and said, what a visionary. I didn't know anything else. And I just happened to be there in 89, 90, and that's when India opened up. There was nothing known as project finance in India. There was nothing known as mergers and acquisitions. One of the earliest mergers and acquisitions that was done in our country was Coca-Cola bought Parley. And I happened to be Parley's lawyer for that early M&A transaction. And that sort of started to build things from one thing to the other. And I've even got an award from our former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and our former Chief Justice to being a visionary international transaction lawyer. So, these guys also make mistakes. So
And then one of the other things I wanted to move on to, because you, as well as being a lawyer, and in that time developing your business from, as you said, being a lawyer on a motorbike to what is today a 400 lawyer plus firm, 80 partners, you're also still involved and interested in many other business pursuits. You're part of the Ani Foundation with Amir Khan Kiran Rao. You were one of the co-founders of the Pro Kabaddi League. You're also on the Kovri Calling Project. How do you end up, as well as being a managing partner, also involved with such diverse projects? And how do you get the time to manage all that?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not, as far as, let's go one by one. As far as I'm concerned, law is my first priority. My firm is my first priority by all counts. But since, I'm one of those few seniors, there may be many more, I don't know many, that the senior, especially in the practice of law, has a tendency not to teach his or her juniors everything, because then they become redundant. My logic is totally different. If I teach everything I know, then I can play golf and they can work. So unfortunately, it doesn't happen as much as it should, because I keep on building newer areas of practice. And since I didn't have the pedigree or the credibility, I had to keep on, I had to strive very hard, but I enjoyed every second of it. I don't think, if you were to ask me on a serious note, I don't think I worked for a day, because it was pure enjoyment. I enjoyed every second of it, setting up things, building them. We saw, where we started project finance in 92. India did not know the spelling of project finance at that time. We started doing M&A in 92, 93. Very few law firms had even looked at those areas. So we were quite lucky. We started insurance. We started competition, the antitrust stuff, 4 or 5 years before it became, the law even got its teeth. But that's how I built the firm. And of course, me is just one guy. It's really the real wo karwa banta gaya, log aate gaye, and good quality people. I've been blessed, very, very good quality, very hardworking people. So one day I will play golf.
Good. And then talking about working hard, what's your kind of philosophy, viewpoints on, given you manage a lot as well, work-life balance? So we, especially with today's generation, we hear a lot of conversation about, we need to get the work-life balance right. But what's your viewpoint on that? Especially as it seems you work a lot. So is it a myth or is it reality?
I'll tell you, well, again, when you say work-life balance, I hear it all the time. In fact, it's coming out of my ears, especially the millennials. I don't blame them. It's every There's nothing wrong with them. It's every generation has its own set of quirks, and this lot also has them. The difference is that when you say work-life balance, it sort of tends to insinuate that work is boring and life is fun. If you found work interesting and fun, then you wouldn't need a work-life balance. Having said that, to widen your horizons, because lawyers tend to get very myopic very quickly. It's very important to keep different hobbies, different interests, different areas, so you keep widening your horizons all the time. It also helps you professionally. Now, you talked about Pro Kabaddi League, for example. It was Mr. Anand Mahindra and Charu Sharma. Charu was a junior of mine in college, and a very, very dear and close friend. And we were thinking, I mean, Anand, etc., were thinking of setting up a football league and a badminton league. And I said, why don't we build something on an Indian sport? I won't tell you which one of them said. He said, why don't we do Kho-Kho? I said, that must be the most boring thing on earth. So Kabaddi was something I had played as a youngster in school. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to do. And then we built this league. We still own a part of it. We've sold a large part of it to the broadcasters, etc., so that they could put in the real money. We put in very little money, but we still own the league even today, a reasonable part of it. I'm not involved in running it at all, never was. I just conceptualized it, put some money, of course, the legal documents and all of that, agreements, blah, 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 and conceptualized the whole thing, and then introduced the various people to buy the teams, etc. So that was my only thing. I've never really been involved in the management of it at all. Similarly, Pani Foundation, Amir Khan is a very dear friend, and so is his wife Kiran. And we were chatting, I'd worked with him a little bit on the Satyamev Jayate program of his, and I thought seeded a few programs, and one of them was, harassment of young kids. And I said, the best way to do this, do a program that what is the right touch? What is the wrong touch? And then things like, more practical things like, what happens when your daughter or son tells you it's the uncle? How does the mother handle that conversation? It's the mama or the chacha. Then how do you handle it? What is the way you... So those kinds of things we were doing. And then I was telling Amir, I said, "Tune bahut kaam kar liya." He's a dear friend for a long, long time. Abhi tum kuch desh ke vaste karo. So water was a big issue in Maharashtra, if you remember, about 6 years ago. And so that's where it thought seeded, and then one thing led to the other. So we ended up creating Pani Foundation, which today has become a kind of a people's movement. My next sort of mountain to climb is to try and create a regiment in the armed forces for water management, so that every unit in the armed forces will have a water management regiment, or some officers and men, which will create and solve the problem with water. Similar thing happened with Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev when we were talking about flowing rivers. And that's also our firm and me, we got together, we strategized that how we can make the policy for Government of India. We also worked with the Prime Minister and a few other ministers in his cabinet, especially the Environment Minister. And that's where we started trying to see how we can do that. And Sadhguru went from all the way from Coimbatore to Leh on this site to try and sensitize people on what is a flowing river. In fact, my two daughters, Sana and Arshia, at that time, I think they were 6 and 7 years of age, and my wife, who's a car rallyist enthusiast, actually went for a part of the way with Sadhguru. I just got the credit.
And even in conversation with you, many on a separate point now, moving on from that many people know that Rajiv is quite a jovial character, very light, very witty, almost very different to the stereotype we have of what a lawyer is, which is should be stern and professional and not someone who's joking around and that. It's a very serious profession. How do you manage to keep that lightness about you, in a profession that doesn't seem to take it so seriously?
I'll tell you, I think life is too short to be just, sucking at a lemon all the time. I think it's important to keep things as light. Well, if I have to be serious, I am. And believe me, you should chat with some of the people in my office. They can tell you that we don't recognize you, sir, type of thing. But if I have to, and especially when I'm negotiating, etc., I'm reasonably serious. But I also put in a little lighter banter to keep things alive. I also feel, I've been through a lot in life and seen many, many things. In fact, I've had a very serious accident just around the time I set up my farm. I got split in an elevator like a chicken in two. And twice the ice came. I was declared twice, but I would get warm again and then get back. And I've seen all that. So that also taught me that, what is the big power we guys have? I didn't have the power to press the remote button to change the channel on television. So it got to that level. And then, it's the longest story, but a wonderful, I'd hate anybody to get accident like that. But that was such a serious accident. And I was, just to give you a quick snapshot, I was about nearly 94 days in hospital. And about 23 of them were daily operations, about minimum 7 hours each. In fact, the wonderful surgeon in Calcutta, Dr. Darius Anklasaria, who saved my life, he gave up all his patients for nearly 2 months. And I was his sole patient. And I'm happy to tell you that this wonderful man and the genes he has created, his daughter right now is in Los Angeles running a COVID hospital there. She's the director of the ICU. She's 7 months pregnant and she's in hospital every day.
Wow.
That is the man and that is the family. And then I came out of it. Of course, humor kept me going because my mother is, again, most of it comes from her. For example, I was holding my left leg on my shoulder. It was broken in two. And I had 105 temperature. I was lying in bed, could hardly talk, and they had to take out all my blood. I got gas gangrene, which is very few people survive from that. So they had to transfuse my entire blood in my body 3 times. They took it all out, put fresh blood in, took it all out, put fresh blood in. My mother walks into the room after my transfusion is complete and says, "Beta, ab tu mera khoon nahi raha." So that, and my younger brother, who's a golfer, I had gone to Calcutta to play golf for 2 days. I had taken my golf set with me. Of course, the family back home in Delhi heard that I'd almost gone. So, whatever flight they could catch, whatever slippers they were in, they got onto planes and came to Calcutta. And this was December. This was 8th of December, 1990, when I had my accident. And this was the golfing season in Calcutta. The East India Cup and the All India Amateur was being played at that time. And my brother is a gold medalist in the Asian Games and a really good golfer, but he hadn't got his golf set. So he arrived, my golf set was there. So he saw I was getting better or whatever, and whatever is going to happen. So he went off to play golf and he won a few golf tournaments. And he eats a lot. So he walks up to my doctor one day, and the doctor's walking around. And I was, lots of anesthesia, this, that. And he tells the doc, he says, "When will Rajiv start jogging?" So doc said, "Look, the next 5 years, he'll be a vegetable. Then 3-4 years, he'll be about to walk. And then maybe 10 years later, he'll jog." He says, "Oh, that is fantastic. He's never jogged before." So that keeps your positiveness, humor, it keeps things going. And that was a very, very serious operation. Set of operations, I would say.
So is that really part of the, the family environment you were saying? Like it is quite a serious, but you also got to keep lighthearted and look at the positives as well throughout life.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you can imagine what my family was going through while there were doctors were saying 1 hour at a time. And my wife, young wife, mother, father, brother, I think he was married then. I don't think he was married. He was married. His wife, who actually my wife's real sister, younger sister. And what they were going through standing around outside, and the family and the relatives. A lot of my friends came from overseas because they all thought it's now bye-bye time.
Yeah.
And so that positive vibes, I think, kept the whole story going, in my view.
And have you managed to jog after that?
I have a very simple philosophy in life that exercise killed no one, but why take a chance?
All right, so I'll take that as a no, risk adverse.
No, it's not a no.
I think a bit. We'll ask a kind of a law-oriented question. So I really want to. So we're going through quite fundamental period at the moment, whether it's judiciary, lockdown, government. I really want to ask you, what kind of advice would you give to the kind of the judicial fix we're in right now with the backlog, etc.? What kind of solutions do you think we should be looking at as a kind of legal community to fix this whole persistent problem of delay in judicial decision making?
That's an excellent question. If you, the obvious ones is make more courts, have more judges, all of that, but that's going to take lots of time. So let me think and give you 2 or 3 thoughts that can start fixing the story tomorrow morning. 1, why do we have so much of pendency? Let's go to the first principles. We have so much of pendency because roughly 67 or 68% of all pending matters in all the courts in India, government is on one side or the other, government or their instrumentalities. Now, why are they there? They are there because of the 3 C's, the CBI, the CVC, and the CAG. Which officer, which bureaucrat will say, don't appeal and sign off on it? Because 6 years later or 10 years later, and we've seen that happen to the telecom secretary and the coal secretary, etc. recently, the CAG will say you lost so much of money. So one is, why can't government of India, anyway they lose most of the cases in the end, why can't they make a simple rule that, for example, which by the way, the tax department has started doing now, that if there's a matter is worth, say, 20 lakhs, and we lose it in the first level, no more appeal. So the officer doesn't have to fall back on anything, and it's not appealed, and the matter is over. If it's over 2 crores in the High Court, no more appeal. Then one more important aspect is these should not become precedents. They shouldn't become matters of law. The government should just scour the courts, look at those parameters, let there be a simple executive instruction, and they withdraw those cases. You will see a very large percentage of the court backlog going away. That's one. Second, we are stuck with a big problem of adjournments. We have adjournments all the time. Why can't everything is today, you're bored. I mean, there'll be a few non-lawyers hearing this. Judges, when they set up their case roster for the day, it's all digital. All they have to do is add one more thing, that I had 50 cases today. I heard 40 of them, and their part heard or whatever. 10 were adjourned. One more. Why? Why were they adjourned? And that copy should go to that court's chief and to the Chief Justice of India. So you'll know the efficiency of the judge and where the whole story is happening. Third, today, if some of you may have been to a court, you'll see one digital clock outside every courthouse, which says the case card, the number of the case that is being heard. We should have two more. One, which says how many cases pending in this court and how many were disposed of yesterday. All of that you make a cumulative on top of the court. For example, if it's Delhi High Court, all the courts in Delhi High Court will then total it up, and on top of Delhi High Court's citadel, you'll have total cases pending in Delhi High Court and total disposed of yesterday. Similarly, you do that in all the courts in India. There will be transparency, number one. Two, there'll be competition. And that will start opening things up. Now, these are three very simple things. I can tell you, if you analyze it, there are a number of current courts in India. Current courts means the number of cases that have been disposed of, lesser cases were filed in that year. So if your pendency goes away, we'll get justice quicker than the wonderful Trump land. And those are the, I can think of many more, but I think if you did these three, and that can be done Monday morning.
And what's holding us back from kind of implementing some of those solutions?
A lot of it has got to do with little knowledge. Two, it's also an old boys network system. You don't, for example, there are courts even today in the Supreme Court where one particular judge is disposing of 70, 80, 100 matters in a month. Brother judge is disposing of 3 matters in a month. But nobody knows this. So if this was brought out in the open and it made public, there's no contempt here, there's not doing anything. You're just telling how many you dispose. Yes, there will be courts will have complicated matters. Yes, there will be courts which will have, where there's lots of witnesses required, etc., etc. So let's leave that aside. Let's go apple for apple. And some of this, of course, artificial intelligence, big data analysis, all of those things can be brought in without legislation. And that can improve the whole system drastically. Okay.
Would that lead to any hastier judgment, sir, if we're moving so quickly? And
yes, that could be, again, it's a system of points. If they start giving, if you do more than 100 disposals a month, you get a bonus or something, you'll have a problem. Here also, if you want to show off and you dispose of more matters, you might have a bit of an issue, but there can always be a kind of a check and balance to see how things are going with big data analysis, etc. So there could be some system built. I mean, I don't have the exact ABC of it, but it can be built. But it'll be better than what we are doing right now.
Okay. And moving on from the judiciary kind of advice you could give right now. Obviously, we've been in lockdown coming up to more than 2 months, and in Maharashtra, it's probably going to get extended, and some other places extended. And we're now moving beyond kind of the COVID issues to more humanitarian economic problems. What kind of advice would you give the government at the moment with regards to easing out of lockdown and dealing with some of the kind of economic crisis we're now moving into?
I'd look at this a little more holistically. COVID, we don't know the end of it. COVID, we don't know enough. We're all shooting in the dark. And that I mean the entire world. We are trying our best. We are trying to do what works best, but that's fine. But the biggest fundamental issue, if you look at what COVID has done, and it's a great opportunity for government of India to really now seize the opportunity and fix the problem. Now, what is the fundamental problem in India right now? We need good infrastructure. If we had good infrastructure, for example, we wouldn't have this so-called, I don't know why they call it migrant. They are our countrymen. going back, why do you need to build all the factories around Mumbai or Pune or Delhi? Why can't they be all over India? Because we don't have proper infrastructure. Now, to make proper infrastructure, you need long-term money. In the old days, we used to have the IFCI banks, we used to have the IDBI banks, we used to have the ICICIs of this world. Today, they don't exist. Today, you have 5-year money for 30-year projects. So, government of India needs to figure out a way. One, of course, is COVID. We need, now, let me go back a little bit. Look at what America has done. Not a great country to follow, at least as far as I'm concerned. But they've given 12% of their GDP as a largesse. They're giving salaries to the people who are jobless, etc., etc. Germany has given 16%. France has given 11%. Singapore has given 9%. Now, India, we have said 10%, but if somebody, I don't trust most of the economists of this world, they have their own views, but somebody said actually it's pretty close to 1%. Now, to do 10%, we need about $280, $290 billion. Does India have it? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe there'll be a resurgence. However, we have $1 trillion, as per Government of India's information, $1 trillion of Indian money illegally lying outside India. You bring it back to India today, they put you in jail. Why can't Government of India announce that please bring as much of money as you want into India? We will ask you no questions, a bit like the election bonds. We'll ask you no questions. It'll be fully confidential. You bring in the money, 15% you pay TDS. So let's say there's $1 trillion. Let's take that as a round figure. $150 billion you get on day one. 35% you give it to the guy or girl who brings it in. 50% you subscribe to, not because I look like one, but I've nomenclatured it, subscribe to an elephant bond. This is a 25, 30-year bond, which will have a coupon rate of, let's say, 200 basis points over LIBOR. Most Indians will be very happy to bring that money back, have a peaceful night of sleep, and not have to send their nephews and nieces to Dubai, Singapore, London, and have 200 basis over LIBOR. Now, this bond could be, now if you leverage that, you're looking at roughly $2 to $3 trillion of long-term money, and that takes care of all your infrastructure development. $285 billion give to COVID. Give it tomorrow, once the money comes in, I mean, and you're done for. I mean, it solves a whole lot of problems, and it takes care of, there's long-term financing in India, which is a big, see, look at America, it was eagle bonds. Why don't we have elephant bonds? I mean, what is the problem? Look at Europe, look at Japan. All these countries, look at Korea, they built infrastructure with these long-term money available. Now, we need to do that, and sooner the better, is what I would say.
Do you think we will? I mean, is the government really kind of inclined to do that kind of move?
I thought about it. See, there is a, I mean, I'll put it on a lighter note. Our Prime Minister did say 15 lakh rupees har ki account mein dalenge. We haven't got a rupee. I can talk for myself and you, Vikas, because if you had a rupee free in your bank, we'd be talking different. Second, he also said, "Achhe din aayenge." But luckily, he never said when. So today, what will happen is that the main voters, the poorer ones especially, will say, "Ye Amiron ne sab badmashi kiya, abhi inko maaf kar diya." I would, if I was the Prime Minister, I would say that, look, when I said those "Achhe din aayenge" or 15 lakh dunga, I was Prime Minister for the first time. 5 years I have spent trying to, and he has tried, no doubt. I have tried to bring the money back, etc. But there's so many international laws of FATCA, KYC, exchange of information, which is all a fact. It's not a figment of anybody's imagination. मैं नहीं ला पाया. अब मैं इनके पैसों से आपके लिए बिजली घर और आपके लिए सड़क बना रहा हूं. Maybe it would work.
Okay. We're gonna before we move on to some of the later on, and I get my interrogator in, I want to ask you one question that you're an adventurer at heart. I think you mentioned about the adventure company you set up as a kid. What is the next adventure for Rajiv Luthra?
I'm very, very convinced that if India has to really get to the next level, we need to set our education system correct. We need to really, we don't have enough schools, we don't have enough, I mean, it's a nightmare to get a nursery kid's admission. It's a nightmare to get into a good college. It's a nightmare. And you know, all this nonsense of, and the number of people we are throwing up to go to higher education every year is mind-boggling. Roughly 18 to 20 million. Now, we are not producing that many colleges. Yeah, we're not producing. So we have to use technology. The whole digital learning, e-learning. So I'm on the board of a couple of colleges, board of governors, and also a curricula. For example, in law, nobody teaches you stress management. Once you become a lawyer, that's your biggest problem. Nobody teaches you international intellectual intelligence. Nobody teaches you that. Now, to use intellectual intelligence with a judge or with the arbitrator or with your wife or with your children or with your spouse, all of these areas are needed, but does anybody teach it? No. Because our entire education system is based on, you know, probably the Industrial Revolution, and we haven't changed very much.
Yeah, yeah.
So that needs to change, and we need the way we disseminate information. Now, of course, if you see now with the 60, 80 days of shutdown, e-learning has gone crazy. My two girls are going nuts trying to e-learn. Most of them switch their damn videos off and sleep. But
so do mine.
but e-learning, then has the government thought that e-learning, there should be a regulator? We should be able to issue e-learning degrees. Now, will the Bar Council or, you know, the various other bodies that look at this, the University Grants Commission, etc., they should be working on it real time. That's what I want to, you know, once I hang up my boots and get onto a different mountain, that's the mountain I'd love to climb.
E-learning and transforming the education system here.
Yeah, just transforming the entire education system. I'm lucky I'm on the board of governors of the Bridgeborn Lal University, which is a very forward-thinking bunch. And it's I would invite you, Vikas, when this thing opens up, come and visit the campus. It's actually mind-boggling. Wow. And our chancellor is Mr. Sunil Munjal, a very, very progressive man, and listens to all the new ideas. So I'm helping them with the curricula and all that. For example, I'm creating a system in 3-4 other universities also of patenting. One of the main ways universities like Harvard, etc., are funded is that they take a piece of the action from the patent. Why can't we do that in India? All our IITs, etc., they'd be, you know, free of all this interference, so-called, from ABC. They'll be financially independent, and they won't have to be sticking to the UGC, you know, 30,000 rupees salaries, etc., etc. You get the best professors in the world. You do you do. So all of that can easily be. So we are doing that. We are actually real time doing it. We've got a dedicated bunch in our office that regularly goes, looks at all the so-called patents that kids are looking at in these universities, tell them what is patentable and what is not, and then help them actually register the patent, and then make an agreement with the university, and then connect them. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Indian Angel Network, for example. Then also connect them to the IAN. They then commercialize it, and the university gets money either through royalty or outright sale. So things like that, that's the new mountain.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to bring in Tanisha now for the next round, which is the kind of more the novel bit that we're bringing into Unsuited. Tanisha, you want to take over?
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Good evening.
hi.
How's it
Good
going?
evening. Good evening, Tanisha.
Thank you for sharing as much as you did with Vikas, with a lot of honesty and candidness. We've really enjoyed listening to you. So thank you for that.
You'll get my bill.
I was hoping you'd send us like a coffee hamper or something as a thank you, you know. That's what I was
Excuse
hoping.
me?
I'm an opportunist, so what can I say?
Madam, I sell time.
Billable hours, I'm aware. I've worked at a law firm at some point.
Then you'll know, and I know which one.
Let's not talk about that. We're going to focus on you today. So
No, I don't want to die.
Moving straight on. Thanks, Vikas, for your time. So our next segment is interestingly called the demonstration round. We're going to request you, Mr. Luthra, to in this round either demonstrate a skill or, we understand that lawyers come with limited skill outside of lawyering. So
Really.
So if demonstrable skills are a problem, then if there is anything that you'd like to show us, maybe, your favorite painting.
So first, let me show you a painting.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
A
Now,
little bit higher, please. Okay.
Can you see my signature?
Yes.
And the painting. And this was jointly painted with a gentleman called Paresh Maiti.
Oh, wow.
So before you guys get impressed, look carefully. So I walked into his studio. I said, Dada, he's a dear friend. I said, Dada, ye kya banaya hai? He says, ye ek ladki apna future husband ko dekhti hai, sochti hai. मैं कहा, Dada, tum to gada hai. Tumko koi ek hai, this is a boring thing, young girl thinking of a future husband. मैं कहा, lal brush do. So if you look at the bindi carefully, it's very badly made. If you look at the sindoor on top, it's horrible. Those are the two bits I added. And sir, ab ye married woman ek aur aadmi ke bare mein sochta hai.
Trust a lawyer to make things interesting, right?
And he said, Dada, aap to senior hai, ye wo karke kya bada zabardast bana diya. So I've done two more with him jointly. And the second thing that I'll tell you, I'm one of the few, especially probably one of the only lawyers in India who's had an open brain surgery. I had an accident, and then in 2010, before 2008, 2009, I developed kind of a brain tumor. And it took about 5 years for it to, it's the longest story. So finally I had it operated in 2013 in Singapore. Quick bit, I'll tell you about that.
Please.
So one of the things, being a lawyer, I read up a lot about it. Of course, it was very scary. I had 2 little girls and a young wife, etc., etc. And it was a scary thing, and it's an open brain surgery. It's not an easy one. But I read up all about it, and it told me 2 things. One is connect with your surgeon and connect with your anesthetic. So my surgeon was Dr. Ho Ki Hang in Singapore, Parkway Hospital, Mount Elizabeth, actually. And he was a painter himself. So we connected like house on fire. So, I showed him some of my sketches, and he showed me some of his, and blah, blah, blah. My anesthetic was a Chinese doctor, but trained in Scotland, which means zero sense of humor. I tried everything under the sun to get to her, and she was a big, solid, she was the nug. Everything was, she would just, just brush me off. About 5 days before my surgery, she discovered that I was a lawyer. She was the anesthetic to Nirbhaya.
Oh
If
my
you
God.
remember that poor girl who
Yeah.
had that terrible
Oh,
problem, and
absolutely.
she passed away at
In
Parkway at
Singapore,
Mount
yes, yes.
E, and she was an anesthetic. So she started questioning me about, so what's going to happen now, and this, that, and the
Sure.
other. So I was trying to explain to her. I said, Doc, it's a concept under criminal law. It's mens rea now. What was the intention? The prosecution will prove that they were murderers or rapists. The defense will say there was no intention and it just happened accidentally.
Sure.
So I was trying to explain to her mens rea. She couldn't understand. So then I told her, I said, Doc, when you put that butterfly in me and that anesthesia, I have about 45 seconds before I pass away. I pass out. So she said, yes. I said, during that 45 seconds, if I pinch your bottom, you have no recourse. No, you cannot pinch my bottom. I said, Doc, I'm not pinching your bottom. I'm just telling you that you have no recourse. So,
Trust you to make the law very interesting as well, right?
When she was putting the butterfly, she said, okay, Mr. Luthra, you have now convinced me. Please, you can pinch my bottom. I said, no. I'm not pinching your bottom.
My wife's waiting outside praying that I get better. I'm okay.
So it was an 8.5-hour open brain surgery. So I'm one of the few humans who's had his brain touch actual oxygen. So like Superman built power slowly over kryptonite, I've also got some special powers. So I'll give you a demo. Light band karo. I'll just switch off. Yeah. I'll just switch off and I'll show you a little demo. But I'm going to have my youngster hold. Can you guys see me?
Yes. You're very visible. There's enough light. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Just 1 second, guys. Sorry for this disturbance.
No problem.
Wow.
Yes, can see a part of your table now. That's visible.
Now you can see my table?
Yes.
Okay, you can see my hands?
Yes.
I've only got my mother's blessings here and my sister's Rakhi.
Okay.
So I'll take off my watch.
All right. I'm sure everyone's very curious to know what's coming up next. I sure am.
So like Superman flies.
Right.
It's only been, not that many years. I'm still a toddler.
Right.
In terms of supernatural powers.
And at heart.
Well, heart, I don't know. So that's my watch is off.
Sure.
So there's no hanky-panky. The watch is there. My hands are all clean. Can you see anything in my hands?
Yes. No, nothing.
Anybody see anything in my hands?
No, we trust you.
Now I'll take off my specs. These are the normal specs I was wearing.
Okay.
I'll take them off. I'll put them here, as you can see them. These specs I will now bond with. I have to bond with them still. Okay. You might think it's static or some of that shit. But see, there's nothing. See?
Oh my God. Whoa. No way.
See?
There's no thread or anything, right? Like
there's no thread. Where is the thread? Where is the thread?
Okay.
Where's the thread?
Wow. Can you suspend them back up in the air, please?
So, yeah, you can. It takes a lot of doing. That's why I have to put the lights off. There's a lot of power I have to put. It tires the hell out of me. It's not easy. Wow. But I'll try one more time. One more time of power. Takes the juice out of you. See, there's nothing.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. We've always known of lawyers to be magicians. This is very literal.
This is not magic, madam. Theek hai. Love
It's
office.
science. Are you going to say it's science now?
It's not science, it's pure power. And you, madam, I would recommend, if your next few questions are painful, I would recommend keep me on your dial 1.
Okay.
Because I can drop your neck anytime I want.
I'll keep my doctor on speed dial in that case.
Doctor कुछ नहीं कर सकता इसमें. Superman से doctor बचाएगा तेरे को. अच्छा.
I'm still believing in science a little more at this point than I am in
This is
superpowers.
science. This is power. This is superpower. I've shown it to you in front of you. There's nothing in my hands even now.
This was indeed very fascinating.
And these are my normal specs. These are not, some drama wala things. And if it was static, you couldn't fly in the air.
But later offline, you must tell me what you did, okay? You don't need to reveal it to everybody.
I've told you all. And I've shown it to you. Are you a lawyer as well?
I have trust issues. What can I say?
Yeah, you're a skeptic.
It's part of my qualification. I'm sorry.
And that's a manufacturing defect. That's a manufacturing defect. That's a manufacturing defect, and your warranty period is over.
Absolutely. So thank you for showing us the painting. Thank you for showing us your superpower. This was very, very fascinating. We're now going to move on to the next segment, which is going to be painful for you because inherently as a lawyer, you're not very used to being impulsive. I know that lawyers love deliberating, and I'm not going to give you any time to deliberate. So are you ready?
Luthra, yes.
Can you explain that joke, please?
I'm not from
Andhra Pradesh.
From Andhra Pradesh. I'm not a Reddy. I'm a Luthra.
Okay. So are you ready, Mr. Luthra?
I'm ready.
That is good to know. So now you are from Andhra Pradesh. Moving right on to the most interesting segment, we believe, called the interrogation. Okay, this is a time cap, so you can't take very long. You have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. And we need you to be fast-paced and impulsive. Is that okay?
Okay.
Super. Let's start. Who is Rajiv Luthra in just 3 words?
Committed, humble, witty.
Well done. Next question.
Wait. I want one more. Father, brother, and son.
Oh, that is lovely. Okay, thank you. Moving on, you're going to be marooned on an island with 3 people and 3 things. Who are the 3 people you're going to take and what are the 3 things you're going to take? Please tell us.
I would take my 2 daughters, Sana and Arshia, and my wife.
Okay.
And I need a 4th, instead of the 3 things, I'd want a 4th person, a masseuse.
Fair, given.
And that's on a straightforward thing. But ideally, now that I'm thinking, I'd like to have Donald Trump, Putin, and Houdini. Houdini with 1 set of powers extra, which is a 3-star Michelin chef. And a masseuse, because Houdini would get rid of Trump and Putin, make the world a better place, cook for me, and the masseuse would be there and I'd be fine.
Wow, you've really got this figured out. Well done. Moving on to the next question. On the personal front, what is your argument style? Are you assertive, aggressive, or passive?
Where, in court or at home? At home, I'm totally passive.
On the personal front, you're passive.
Personal front, totally passive. Gayatri Mantra.
Because your wife's name is Gayatri. We get the pun there. Well done. Okay. And who wins those arguments?
She. Hey, what do you mean? It's she always, never me.
Just wanted to clarify. I was pretty sure it's her. Okay. Moving on to the next question then. Are you governed by logic or by your heart when you're making decisions?
I On a normal management, etc. basis, I'm governed by my heart, my family, all that. But at work, logic is a very crucial part of my system and my being.
Sure.
In fact, Delhi University, we used to have a sub in logic. I topped it. At that, it's deductive and inductive logic. Both are one of my favorite subjects.
Okay. So on the work front, it's logic. On the personal front, it's your heart that's sort of taking the call.
On the management side of the work front, also it's heart.
It's your heart. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the next question very quickly. If not a lawyer, you would be a dash.
Neil Diamond.
Okay, then. Moving on. If you could be anyone in the world for one whole day, who would you be and why?
One person, one whole day.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be J.R.D. Tata.
Okay, that's lovely.
To make
and
LNL and make LNL into a Tata enterprise.
That is a beautiful thought.
And take all his wealth and transfer it to my personal account the same day.
That is an even more beautiful thought. Okay, I was hoping you were going to bring in the entire CSR angle, but we've moved far away from that. So moving on to the next question. How much did you receive as your first paycheck?
As an article clerk, it was 120 rupees.
120 rupees. And what did you do with that money?
Went with a lady, a girl from Miranda House for a movie to Archana Cinema, and then went and had some Chinese at the Taipan restaurant in the Oberoi.
Oh, lovely.
And got pretty much rid of my 120 rupees because my motorcycle fuel was also counted for.
So you blew that up very quickly then?
Yes.
Okay, well done. The next question then. What has been your proudest moment on the personal front, Mr. Luthra?
The arrival of my two daughters, Sana and Arshia.
We can imagine. Okay. Next one. Show us a funny meme or message that you've received on your phone today.
Today?
Yes. Oh, well, yesterday is okay too. Like in the last 24 hours, basically.
I've got one. This is actually the state of my mind. Where did it go? And a lot of people on this webinar will identify with this one for sure.
Okay, let's see.
I'm just trying to find it.
Sure.
Can you guys see? There's Batman and Robin.
Okay.
And Robin says, join us for a webinar. And Batman slaps him.
Absolutely. Very, very relatable.
This is a friend of mine from Singapore who sent it to me.
I'm just hoping no one had this reaction when we set up this webinar with you. That's all I'm hoping
I
for.
certainly did.
I'm sure you did. Okay, moving on to your next question. What is your weirdest habit, Mr. Luthra?
Weirdest habit. One second, let me get the lights on again.
Sure.
You guys can see me, I think.
We can, but it'll be good to have the lights on. Please feel free.
Yeah, I'll just do that. I think my weirdest habit would be that lights on, bhai. I love to win both sides of the argument.
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit?
So if I'm winning one side, then I lose interest.
Okay.
Then I jump on the other side and win that too.
Okay. So you're basically saying your weirdest habit is winning. Is that what you're saying? Okay, well done.
Weirdest habit, both sides of an argument is not easy, but
Correct.
I create, and that what helps me also professionally, because then I think of how the opposition is thinking,
Correct.
or
You're
the
able to
opposing
lend
lawyers
perspective.
thinking.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Sure.
that's
Sure.
people think it's a very weird habit, especially at home, because they say you're crazy coot, you're going nuts, blue in the face, arguing about this, and suddenly you've changed that completely.
Switched it to the other side. Okay, well done. The next question: whom do you call maximum number of times in a day on a regular work day? Not right now. The lockdown is an exception.
On a regular work day, wherever I am in the world, it's a young lady called Jennifer, my executive assistant, who's been with me now nearly 30 years. She gets
Wow.
about 17, 18 calls, maybe 15 calls a day.
Okay.
Because
Jennifer.
I bark at her and I put the phone down. Then I've forgotten to do the full bark, then I go back again and bark the rest.
To bark some more. Okay, fair, fair. Okay,
So
Jennifer.
I told her one day, she got very angry with me, and I said, Jennifer, don't worry. I called her Bete, and she calls me Mr. Luthra. Imagine, after 30 years. I said, Bete, don't worry. Next 26 January, keep yourself free. She said, why? I said, because you're going to be given an elephant ride as the bravest person on earth on Republic Day, having suffered me so many years.
Fair, fair. Okay. Well done, Jennifer. Shout out to you if you're watching. Moving on to the next question, Mr. Luthra. Can you cook? And if you can, what do you make well?
You know, I'm not a detailed, heavy-hitting, pasanda type cooker, but I cook. And my elder daughter will always say, I want to eat what Papa is eating, because she claims she's a 2-star. She also cooks, that she's a 2-star Michelin and I'm a 3-star Michelin chef.
Okay.
So I like to do very simple things. For example, try this.
Okay.
Take some sliced tomatoes,
All right.
saute them lightly in olive oil.
Okay.
Put a bit of garlic and ginger on top of it, and let that ginger and garlic get a bit brown.
Mm-hmm.
Just take that and put it on toast.
Fantastic.
And that's it. Try it. Second, dessert. Very simple. Vanilla, normal vanilla ice cream with bit of Bonvita.
With Bonvita?
Just try it. It is a 3-star. Both these are 3-star Michelin. Very simple.
Okay,
There's no big deal on them.
We'll definitely try both. Thank you for sharing them. Who thought that a lawyer would be giving us recipes today, right? So thank you. Moving on to your next question. And this is my personal favorite. You're allowed a couple of seconds to think this through. You're stuck in an elevator with 3 other lawyers whose faces you can't see. What do you say to them?
How do I know they're lawyers?
I'm telling you they're lawyers, Mr. Luthra. Have some faith.
I can't see them, so they are all sucking at lemons.
Now, what are you going to say to them?
I just introduce myself and say, I'm a lawyer, the biggest in India.
Oh, wow. Okay, then. Nicely done. Moving on to the next question. One subject in law school that you hated.
Hated? Oh, UP land laws.
UP land laws. Okay. All right. The next question then. One lawyer you've interacted with where he or she has just blown your mind.
So my guru, like I told Vikas, that I never had a senior. I've never worked for any lawyer in my life till now. But I had to follow somebody. I had to follow some example. Right. So I discovered a gentleman called Fali Nariman.
Okay.
And I would go, when I was free, I'd go and just sit in court and hear him argue. You know, those days there was no Google, there was hardly any television. I'd go, if there was a seminar, I would hear that he's speaking, I'd go. And I just followed him, like a puppy. And after nearly 4 years, I'd never met him. After nearly 4 years, I had chanced meeting on a Singapore Airlines flight. He was coming from Australia. I was flying from Singapore to Delhi. Okay. And he happened to be sitting across the aisle to me. But I was so tired that when I got into the plane, I didn't notice him. He and his wife, Babsi, I went to sleep. When I woke up, we were about to land in Delhi. And there I see Mr. Nariman. Then, of course, I went up, I chatted with him, and I told him that sir is my, my guru, this, that, and the other. And he was very gracious. And so I said, no, let me carry your bag. I didn't, let me carry your bags. Main to chela hai, aap guru hai. How can you carry? I didn't realize he had 4 bottles of whiskey. So, and I had 2 of my own. So I have a bit of a bad back since then, but I carried it and we chatted. And then I got the chance of appearing, briefing him on a matter of one of his friends who had hired our firm. And I promise you, I'd heard he threw files and he got angry and, he did all those kinds of things. And I had one of the 2 youngsters with me. I had a Maruti 800 those days. Okay. And I put those 2 youngsters in the car and went to Fali's house. And the client arrived directly. Sorry, just to back up a little bit. So I was told to go to Fali's to brief him the day before. And I wanted to find some reason not to go. I said, no, uncle, I'm very busy. I can't go, this, that, and the other. Can we do this another time? Hoping that Fali will not give us time. He gave us a time the next day. I promise you, Tanisha, when I was driving, I was hoping my car would hit a tree or a bus would run over us. All those kind of things came to our mind.
Why though?
I was just shit scared of being exposed as an idiot. Because, he has such a larger than life persona.
Correct.
So when I went and sat with him, so there was about 700 pages. All night I had studied each point, marked everything, every possible question he could ask me, I was ready. But I was so nervous that he said, why are you doing this? Why are you using ICC, for example? Or why are you using ABC? So I would try to open that page. It would take some bite. Hurry up, huh? Why are you not opening the page? What are you going to keep it secret from me? So 2-3 times he said it. Then I lost it. I said, will you wait a minute? It says 900 pages. It'll take me some time. He said, this fat Punjabi will eat me up. Yeah, please open. Then I'm happy to tell you, when we finished that and what pearls of wisdom I got, I came out and he came to the gate. And if there are lawyers listening to this or brief Fali, I don't think he's ever been to drop anybody else to the gate of his house downstairs. His chamber is upstairs. He comes to the gate, puts his arm around me and tells my client, who's a friend of his, that you are in a very safe pair of hands. I get into my Maruti 800, drive straight to the Delhi Golf Club bar, and we drink a whole bottle of whiskey.
To celebrate the validation you received from Mr. Fali Nariman.
So मैंने सोचा यार, he'll shout at me. My kids will go back to the office and say, Mr. Luthra is a piece of shit.
Well done. So you're saying
but he's an
a
amazing
lawyer
human being. Amazing human being.
So he's a lawyer you met who really blew your mind, is it?
Yeah. The sharpness, and the way he'd pick up things and the way he'd give solutions, fantastic.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that little snippet. Moving on to your next question. What is the one thing that you're really bad at doing? There has to be something that you're really not very great at doing. What is that?
I'm terrible at seriously listening to somebody who keeps repeating themselves. I just can't handle it. I'm very impatient and I can't suffer fools easily. And it shows on my face.
Okay, nice. Thank you. The next question then. Can you name 3 books that you really recommend for law students to read? I'm sure we have a lot of students logging in today. Something for them to take away, please.
Oh, they must read this book, Why Zebra Does Not Get Ulcers.
Okay.
It's by Robert Sapolsky. Okay. Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Because, we take our life so seriously. See, a zebra, when a zebra normally ghas khata hai and it hangs around girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever way he swings or she swings, ghumta rehta hai. The only stress time comes when there is a tiger or a lion chasing them.
Correct.
So his only one thing to do is to run faster.
Correct.
So he gets no ulcers. In our life, we have 50,000 ways to go. We stress ourselves. We psych ourselves. You must read this book. Okay. That's one. The second book, all of you, I think not only lawyers, but everybody should read, is Getting to Yes. This was my first professor at Harvard Law School, Roger Fisher. It's an amazing book. Simple, getting to yes. When
And
you
what is this one
negotiate,
about?
it's negotiation. How do you
Negotiation.
negotiate and get the whole story to yes?
Got it.
And of course, the third one, sorry?
Will it also help our non-lawyer friends, say in their personal space, or,
Everybody.
with business and such?
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody.
So it will help me negotiate with my lawyer husband as well, I'm hoping.
Oh, poor chap. Don't tell him about the book. He'll lose.
Okay.
Well, on second thoughts, he'll lose anyway.
How I wish you were right.
The third book I would suggest would be Argumentative Indian by Amartya Sen.
Sure.
It tells you about public discourses, about the history of India. It really opens up a whole lot of avenues in your mind, widens your horizon deeply.
Okay.
And, from all this, this media and all the stuff that we are bombarded by. It's really a great book again. That should be read. I think those three I would recommend strongly.
Thank you. Thank you for recommending those. The next question, one deal that you've worked on, the thought of which gives you an adrenaline rush even today.
So this is, I think, 99 or 98, or maybe a little bit later, later, 2005, 2006. Okay. There's a company called eBay.
Right.
Their managing director in India was arrested.
All right.
And I get a call. The arrest was on a Thursday. On a Thursday evening, I get a call from Meg Whitman, who was the president of the company at that time, saying that, look, my guy has been arrested. Can you sort it out? And I said, look, I'm not a criminal lawyer. In fact, to be fair to all, I hope my client is not listening, but I had never seen a bail application. Okay. Forget drafting one, forget arguing one. And the courts were closing on Friday.
All right.
So all the seniors, the God bless his soul, the Arun Jaitlys of this world, all of them were going out of town for their chuttis.
Sure.
Luckily, I had that stature and connect that I requested them to stay. And I said, I need you for 3-4 days. And they all stayed on. It was it was the first case under the new Cyber Act. Wow, so there was not much knowledge around.
Correct.
And we appeared in Patiala House for the bail. I promise you, I don't mind saying it to an open audience. I didn't know how to enter Patiala House. And I was the lead counsel.
Oh my God.
Anyway, read up the law, mugged it all up, went there, briefed Mr. Jaitley, briefed Dada Mathur, Dinesh Mathur, briefed Amarjit Singh Chandok, briefed Fali Nariman, briefed Harish Salve. Okay. And all of us went, and this whole galaxy in Patiala House, and it's unheard of. There was a lady judge who heard us, and I won't give you the details of the case too much, but I'll tell you bits and pieces. The case was really that there was a DVD, pornographic DVD, that was sold on eBay with the title DPS Girls Having Fun.
Okay.
It was an MMS which somebody had created into a DVD and sold it on eBay.
Okay.
The girl happened to be a general's daughter, and the boy happened to be a police commissioner's son, both minors. So there was a lot of pressure that kuch to attack karna hai, kisi ko to pakadna hai. So they arrested the eBay head.
Sure.
So by then I had read up properly, and I had understood that bail is a right, and bail can only be denied, and if you're going to tamper with justice or run away, etc.
Sure.
So we go and appear, we explain to the judge, and judge said, come after lunch. Now, can you imagine this galaxy? I'm holding them for lunch. So that's where your outside the box thinking comes in. I know all of them love chaat. So one of my youngsters, I told him, bhag ke jao Shahjahan Road, chaat leke aao, aloo ki tikki aur ye sab leke aao. Okay. So we sat in the foyer of Patiala House and had chaat, waited for the recess and came back, and bail denied.
Uh-oh.
Now we had a chance where I was told by our seniors that you have to now go to the Metropolitan Magistrates Court, where 30,000, you'll get at least one more chance.
Okay.
I said, there's no point because the Metropolitan Magistrate does not understand internet. Of course, the judgment said the documents they've submitted are unsigned and not even confirmed by internet. There's a judgment.
Oh, okay.
So I said, he won't understand or she won't understand. There's no point. Let's go to High Court. High Court was on vacation. Justice Vikramjit Sen was the judge, vacation judge.
Okay.
The courtroom was full, packed. It was a huge, the press was all over the place and everybody was there. So Dada Mathur stands up. Nariman Saab was a bit late, so Dada started. And he started getting very technical. So I pulled his gown and I said, Lordship, I'd like to address the court. So Justice Vikramjit Sen, who knew me a little bit, said, oh, very good. I'll give you leave. Please go ahead. I just thought you'd come here to scare me. I said, no, sir, I've not come here to scare you. I said, sir, you have a notice board outside your courtroom. That notice board is owned by the Delhi High Court Bar Association. And the president of the Delhi High Court Bar Association is Amberjeet Singh Chandok, who was on my extreme left.
Sure.
Because he was the junior most out of the rest and I was the junior most. So he was on my left. I said, your wife comes to have lunch with you regularly and she passes the notice board. She's a car for sale. Plucks the notice, has lunch with you and buys the car. The car is stolen. Who will you arrest? The guy who sold the car, your wife, or the guy who owns the notice board? Of course, Amarjeet looks up at me and says, oh, mere piche kyun pe hai? Mega sir, who will you arrest? You have arrested the guy who owns the notice board. He doesn't know DPS girls having fun is playing Holi.
Correct.
I said, secondly, sir, let's invite the investigation officer. Let him tell us if he needs any further questioning.
Sure.
If this guy can run away, he's an American citizen, and if he can tamper with justice. If answer is no to all three, I must get bail today.
Bail, correct.
Prior to that, all the seniors said it'll take 15 days minimum. That aise hi hota hai. That is one statement I can't stand. Aise hi hota hai. I said, hum sab vakeel hai, kahan likha hai 15 din? We got bail on Monday.
Oh, wow. Nice. Moving on to our next question. Thank you for sharing that snippet. Moving on to our next question. What would you be like to be remembered as?
One who was fair, who was just and enjoyable.
Okay. Nice. Fair, just and enjoyable, right?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. And now the last question. Having been our debut guest today on Unsuited, and thank you very, very much for taking up the invitation. Who would you recommend as our next guest and why?
Next guest, Zia Modi.
Okay. And why?
Zia is one of the more focused people. I've known her for nearly 35 years plus.
Sure.
And one of the more focused people in many, many ways. She's even focused when she's eating eggs, for example. But she's also, one of those people who loses time. I remember once she called me at 2:30 in the morning. And without saying, hi, Rajiv, this, that. Rajiv, tell me, is SIAC rules or is ICC rules? I said, Zia, it's 2:30 in the morning. You were sleeping. I go, what do you think I was doing? Taking my pet bug for a walk at 2:30 in the morning? She says, oh, now you're awake. Now tell me. That is Zia.
Yes,
once
and she is extremely true.
Yeah, she's an amazing lawyer, amazingly focused, and she'd be an interesting one too. And I would like to come and do this last part with her.
Done. We'll take you up on the offer. And you're right, she is very charming. And we truly hope that after this webinar, you send her a message and say, get unsuited.
I will tell her right now.
Lovely. Thank you. But jokes aside, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Luthra, for your candidness, for your honesty, for all the regale and laughter that you've thrown our way in the last hour or so. We truly, truly appreciate you making the time. And yes, we hope to, engage with you in a different way, perhaps on another episode of Unsuited.
Oh God. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I
Thank
also enjoyed it. It was fun.
I'm glad. Thank you. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Have a lovely evening, Mr. Luthra. Bye. See you.
Thank you. You too, all of you, please.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or anything? Or should we just sign off now?
Are there any questions that we want to take? Varkha, Neha, Shreya?
Yes,
So
we
let's
do
just,
have a few questions here.
It's already 6:30, and I think we'll end up going longer and longer. They were more kind of technical law questions.
Okay, so we'll avoid the technicalities. We'll just stick to the more fun aspect.
Yeah.
You can ask one generic question. Happy to answer that, and let's close. We have 4 minutes to go.
Can we take a generic question, please?
What is the future of third-party funding in arbitration in India?
Third-party funding is a definite reality. A lot of our rules are very archaic. For example, soliciting, for example, advertising. Same thing with third-party funding. I am very strong proponent of third-party funding because I believe it helps with access to justice. So if you look at the logic of it, it makes all the sense in the world. We need to have it with some checks and balances. So you don't have ambulance chasers developing. So there needs to be some balances for that. You don't have to have a lady who drops hot coffee on her thighs while driving through a drive-in and gets $5 million. That sort of situation, we need to have some checks and balances. Otherwise, it's a reality. It's going to come. In arbitration, it's almost there.
Oh, brilliant.
Super. Thank you for asking that. So I think that's all we have time for. And
Okay.
yes, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Mr. Luthra, for joining us today. Enjoy your Sunday evening. Bye, everybody.
All of you have a good time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And we will get you to get Zia on board for us, because I think an interrogation between you and Zia would be phenomenal.
She will never agree. Tell her I said that. Then she'll come on board.
You're basically going for an open challenge, aren't you? You know exactly how this is going to work.
Yes.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye-bye all.
Bye. Cheers.
Yes.